One of the things I hear about most commonly in chats and Discord posts is how to handle customer issues. So I thought today I would bring you some of the tenets of good customer service. Check it out right now. So when I think about customer service and being an eBay card seller, I often think of this iconic scene from one of my favorite shows of all time. And you want to be my eBay card salesman. Because it really feels like this sometimes. We get a lot of wild requests, along with some really reasonable requests. Whether it's card arrived damaged or card wasn't what I thought, I didn't get my card. And sometimes these requests have a lot of emotion behind them, and we can forget some of the things that we've learned over the years in customer service. So I thought it'd be a good time to maybe share some of the key tenets of customer service that I try to keep in mind while I work through these issues, and share a live example that I recently experienced that can show some of the results on this. I thought it would be good to start with a premise that I was introduced years ago, over 25 years ago, with the organization I spent time in. And that is one simple statement: service is what we sell. Yes, our transaction is a trading card, but there are millions of places to get a trading card. So service is really what we're selling, and the differentiator to get people to come back to us. So that's what we need to really focus on. There are, with the print numbers of cards these days, there are so many options for people to get that card. But what makes them come to us and come back to us, hopefully, is service. So that mindset of service is what we sell is very critical to our success. And of course, even when buyers make it really hard. So some of those buyers come in guns blazing, ready to really push you over the edge. And the first thing we want to do is strike back a lot of times. But we have to resist that urge, and we have to control our emotions and keep our tenets of good customer service in mind and at the forefront. So here we have a live example of feedback I received from a customer after they got their item. And they started with, "Hello, I wanted to give you a chance to respond before I leave negative feedback. You listed this card as near mint, but when it arrived, it has a damaged corner that was damn near folded over. It was noticeable as soon as I opened the package, so I'm confused as to why a card that was listed as near mint arrived as damaged." And they included two photos with their message. You can see this is a new Topps Chrome WWE Jacob Fatu card that I had just pack pulled a couple days before. And if you're not up closely to your screen or you're working on a small screen, you may struggle to see what this buyer is pointing out. But at the corner of that card, you can see just a little whitening that indicates a little bit of a soft corner. I don't know that I would describe that as damn near folded over, but I see a little whitening. And I checked the listing as well, and I can see that in the photographs on the listing. So we must have missed that when we listed it. Would I still have listed it as near mint? According to the eBay condition guidelines, I probably would have, but we'll get to more on that later. Now, this buyer came in guns blazing, and I had to take a moment to say, how do I want to respond to this? My initial reaction was a fight or flight response. I wanted to blast this guy right back. I wanted to say, hey, this is not folded over. This card looks beautiful. It's meeting the guidelines of the condition description. You're exaggerating and all of those things. Do what you need to do. But I didn't respond right away. I stepped away. I took a few moments to compose myself, let the emotion settle away, and think about a very deliberate response to this customer. So let's get into my response. I've cooled off for a minute, thought about what do I want to do here. So I respond, thanks for messaging, and we are sorry to hear of your dissatisfaction of that item. We pulled that pack fresh a few days before we listed it. Upon inspection, we either missed that or it happened in transit. Ultimately, we followed the eBay condition guide. So, what did we do there? Well, we provided some responsiveness. We addressed that customer feedback quickly and efficiently with another message right back to them. We stayed professional and we showed some courtesy with a positive attitude, even though our first reaction was blast them back. And we were very respectful in our response. We took accountability and ownership of the problem and started to work through resolutions rather than immediately looking to pass the blame on to anyone else. And we tried to provide some active listening by hearing them closely. If we have any clarifying questions to ask, we would do that. And we want to show empathy. Look, we understand it. We buy cards too. It's very disappointing when you get a card that's not up to your satisfaction. And then we started to provide some information for the customer as well. So we referred to the eBay condition guide. We also provided a link to that condition guide. And if we look at that guide here, we see for sports and non-sports trading cards, and we look at the corners qualities of a card, near mint or better will allow for some minor chipping. To knock it down a grade to excellent, we would be looking for moderate corner wear with multiple dinged corners. Now, if you recall the photo the customer provided, there was one corner, so we don't have multiple corners, and it's very difficult to see unless you are really zooming in on that photo. So I still feel near mint or better fits the quality and condition guidelines set forward by not only the eBay guidelines, but I believe the PSA guidelines would back this up as well. Would it get a PSA 10? No, it would not. Is it listed with the intent of saying it will get a PSA 10? No, it is not. Near mint, in what I have seen, is typically an 8 or better. Do I think this card would get an 8 or better? I absolutely do. So we started to use some of the skills and actions we want to take in providing good customer service here. So where does that take us next? Well, the very next thing I wanted to approach was what kind of options can I provide for this customer to resolve this situation? So I responded, we would have two options for you. You could request a return, and we will certainly approve. You would be able to print a return label at no cost to you. The other option is we could discount the card with a partial refund, and you can keep it if you choose. So we try to use some clear communication here. Stay simple, use concise language so that there's no miscommunication there of next steps. And we continue to show empathy and patience. Understand the customer's emotions and remain patient, especially in challenging situations. So, again, this customer came in hot. We stayed cool, calm, and collected and came up with some options for resolution. Shortly thereafter, the customer came back and said, we can do a partial refund. I really don't want to go through the hassle of all that. That is the resolution I was hoping for because I also don't want to go through the extra steps of a return. Our next steps were to really focus on our problem solving ability and finding effective solutions rather than just saying we acknowledge the issue and we're done. We need to provide some sort of solution. So we gave them two options. And then we went on to further point out that we did see that our listing showed those issues. So I responded, it does appear the corner you pointed out was visible in the listing. Now, look at this image here. Can you see it? Very, very faintly. You can see it. The bottom left of that front of the card, you can just see the slightest amount of whitening. But again, that's no magnification. That is really tough to see unless you are looking at it very close. So I went through with the option of offering them a partial refund. So I told them how much I would be willing to return. I believe this was a $6.99 purchase. And I said, I can offer a $3 partial refund on that. Will that work for you? So I felt that was a pretty fair offer to refund about 40% of that. I don't know, quick math in my head. I don't know the exact percentage. A little less than half of it, though, right? So I thought that was generous on my half. I want a return customer, if at all possible. So when I think about, okay, that's a sizable refund, but if I get in return a number of future purchases from this customer, I will more than recoup that refund that I offered. So we presented a solution to the problem. The buyer has acknowledged, yes, that's fine. And not only do I acknowledge that we will move forward with this solution, but I also thank them for bringing it to me in my response. Thanks for giving us the chance to make it right. We will initiate the partial refund immediately. Why is it important to thank them for bringing this to our attention? Well, I've been leading teams for over 25 years now. Well, really over 20 years, I should say. Um, and one thing I share with my teams all the time, because I do work in customer service. It's in transportation, but it's the customer service portion of transportation. Is that the only thing worse than a complaint is a dissatisfied customer that doesn't make you aware of it, because if you are not willing to share that with the seller, it means you've already given up on them. You're giving them no opportunity to win you over again. You've moved on, you'll never come back. When a buyer shares feedback with you like this before they go to the feedback board and make it permanent, but they message you and want to have a conversation with you about it, they're giving you a chance to win them over again. So that's why it's important to thank them for doing that. Now is where this starts to get good. And if you responded while you were emotionally charged from the buyer's initial message, you probably haven't made it this far. If you have made it this far, congratulations. You're doing a great job. So look at the buyer's response here. I've now offered them the refund. I've thanked them for giving me the opportunity. And their response has significantly changed tone from where they started. The buyer says, thank you for being probably the only seller to even respond to my messages. It's rare, and I'll be sure to leave positive feedback. So I responded back to the buyer and said, we appreciate that, and we are sorry to hear you have poor experiences with other sellers. We are a family business with mom, dad, and our two boys all contributing to the business. We believe that the number one thing we provide is service. Sometimes we miss the mark, but we always appreciate a chance to make it right. And the buyer continued to engage with me. It's okay. Now look at this. It falls on me as well for not messaging you before I bought to confirm the condition. Most times when I do, sellers never respond, so that's on me for not trying, regardless of my last experience. Thanks again. So, we've got a buyer that came in guns blazing saying, "What the heck are you trying to do here?" And we are now about 40 minutes later, 45 minutes later, we have done a 180. And that buyer is now taking some accountability themselves and thanking us for the great service that we've provided. So, the last customer service tenet that we wanted to make sure we used in this interaction is follow up with the buyer. Follow up meaning checking in with your customers to ensure their issues are fully resolved and they're satisfied with the service. So, a day after the initial reaction, I've provided all of those options. They took me up on an option. I've completed that transaction. I want to follow up with them to make sure they're still happy. So I messaged the next day. We wanted to thank you again for allowing us to work through the issue with you and leaving us positive feedback. That's right. We received positive feedback in the end from this buyer that was very heartfelt and meaningful. There's our feedback from the buyer, responded to messages, and was a pleasure to do business with. Now, think back to that initial message from the buyer. This corner was damn near folded over. Why did you list this as near mint? Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. And here we are, one day later, responded to messages and was a pleasure to do business with. How did we get there? Well, we hope this 15, 20 minutes helps you understand how you can turn around an interaction like that and get to this same point. I've provided a list of the key tenets of customer service that we discussed today, and also a couple more there at the end. So actively listen to the buyer's concerns. Be responsive to their messages. Always be professional and courteous. Be accountable if you made a mistake. Clearly communicate your intentions. Show empathy and patience even when they have an emotional response. Make sure you show them that you understand what it's like and you are on their side and working to make this right for them. Be a problem solver, and that means providing different options as well. Give them some follow up to make sure that you have fully satisfied everything they needed. And then the last two I added in is try to provide some personalization in every interaction and have product knowledge of what you're selling. So that comes back to those card conditions. Did I know that even what that customer was showing me was near mint condition? I did. And that allows me to tailor that conversation knowing that, hey, I did the right things. There is an issue with this card, but it falls within the guidelines that are set up in this industry. So it's important to have that product knowledge as well. Well, there you go. Our whole interaction with a recent buyer where we had to work through some customer service issues. We wanted to provide you some of the things we follow along while we work through those. We hope that these provide some value to you as well. I know a little lengthy here going through those. Got the Professor Stu going on here. Where's Stu? Ah! So, Professor Stu giving you a little bit of classroom material here today, not as much nonsense. But, when you're an eBay seller, you're going to run into some of these situations. It's guaranteed. It's just a matter of time. You can't please everybody 100% of the time. What you can do is treat them with respect and professionalism and work just as diligently to find some solution for them as you do in working to get your listings out there in the first place. So I think one of the key things is just don't respond with emotion. Walk away, take a minute, think about your response before you start typing away. So let me know in the comments below what you think about these. How do you think we handled this interaction? Would you do the same? Do you handle things differently? Do you think there's some additional tips that people can get in their interactions with buyers that can be useful? Go ahead and share them down below. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep us going and helps us formulate the content to do. So we appreciate all your support. And don't forget, when you see the goat, you're talking about some of the greatest of all time.